So you need to get from Rome to Venice with a toddler. You could drive or you could fly, but today we chose a high-speed train. We're at Roma Termini, about to board a Trenitalia service direct to Venetia Santa Lucia station. The journey is scheduled to take just under 4 hours and it promises incredible scenery along the way. We carried our luggage all the way to the station, a decision we regretted when we discovered just how hilly it was walking there. I'd recommend a taxi or public transport to get here. On board, the train wasn't busy. We paid extra to sit in the more expensive section. It was worth it as Heath had plenty of room to play. The train travelled at 300 km per hour or 186 miles per hour. The journey takes just under 4 hours, cutting through the gorgeous Italian countryside. There wasn't much facilities on board, which might have been because we were travelling on a Sunday. Definitely stock up on food and snacks before you get on board. The train stops in Florence and Bologna, although we didn't see much as the weather was grey and foggy. I spent a weekend in Florence about 20 years ago, and my main memory of it is visiting a Scottish pub which sold Guinness and played songs by the Beatles. I think it should probably get done under the Trade Description Act. Although it did have underage drinking, so maybe it was a bit Scottish. After a couple of hours, Heath got bored and then slept all the way to Venice. Some of the beautiful Italian architecture you could spot on the journey. There are 2 train stations in Venice. Don't get off at the first one as you'll be in the new town on the mainland rather than the old town. If you expect your first sight of Venice to be canals, bridges, beautiful architecture, you will be disappointed. The first thing I noticed was the massive car park, which makes sense. As you can't drive in the old town, you do need to leave your car somewhere when you visit. From the train station, we decided to walk to our hotel. We had booked a place near the Rialto Bridge. It is the oldest bridge spanning the Grand Canal and is renowned for its architectural design and historical significance. It's also next to one of the worst restaurants I've ever had the misfortune to eat in, but more about that later. After checking into our hotel, we headed out to find St. Mark's Square, the main public square in Venice. It's a large rectangular space surrounded by notable buildings like St. Mark's Basilica, Doge's Palace and the Bell Tower. It's a popular destination for tourists and a focal point of Venice. We would have taken a ferry there, but it's always good to go out for a walk when you get to a new place so you can get your bearings. Venice is tricky to navigate. We had our phones and there were signs pointing us towards St. Mark's. We were here in February, there wasn't many tourists around. Some of the paths were crowded, but most of the time it was easy to get around. The main issue was Heath getting distracted by boats and pigeons, 2 things Venice has a lot of. Decided to get something to eat on the way back to the hotel. Unfortunately we didn't check any reviews and just walked into the place that looked the easiest and most convenient. The food was terrible and although it looks alright, it cost an absolute fortune. This was £60. Plan for day 2 was to head to the Doge's Palace, but first we thought we'd head to the local market. We were hoping we might get something nice to eat, but unfortunately we hadn't checked the times of it, and when we got there it hadn't opened yet. We checked out the canal and some of the local area instead. The tricky thing about having a toddler with us is that he wanted to run free, but the paths aren't really designed to be baby safe, which meant we had to pick him up and carry him a lot. We did have a backpack to put him in for longer walks, but he was never pleased to go in it. So we tried to let him walk as much as possible. He wasn't very interested in Venice architecture, but he did like the boats and pigeons. Every time he saw one he'd shout, "Boat!" or "Pigeon!" After the 100th boat or pigeon, I soon got sick of hearing about them, but he had the same enthusiasm for every one he saw. Oh, how nice it would be to have that level of joy for life. Because we were stayed near the Rialto Bridge, it's only a 15-minute walk to St. Mark's Square, which means it's a 30-minute walk with a toddler. We hadn't booked tickets in advance as we thought getting there early would mean there would only be a small queue. In fact, there was no queue and we were able to head straight in. The palace includes government offices, a jail and the residence of the Doge of Venice. who was the elected authority of the former Republic of Venice. Doges were elected for life and means Duke in English. I think the last Doge to hold office was in the late 1700s. I don't normally like visiting buildings as I find them a bit boring. Going from one room to another whilst reading fact sheets isn't my idea of fun. But supposedly the inside of the palace is stunning, so I thought I'd give it a try. There was a little bit of repair work going on inside, but most of the rooms were available to view. The inside of the Doge's Palace contains a number of rooms with frescoes and paintings. It's undoubtedly very impressive, but a little bit dull. Did I mention that I don't like visiting the inside of buildings? Visiting first thing in the morning and in off-peak season though was a good idea, as there was hardly anyone else inside with us, which meant plenty of opportunity for Heath to walk about and enjoy the big rooms. The largest room in the palace is the Chamber of the Great Council. The canvas painted by Tintoretto is considered the longest in the world. The painting represents heaven and earth. The claimed purpose was to overlook the council so that they would make appropriate decisions. The rooms are some of the largest in Europe, and I have to admit, all I could think about when wandering through them was you could get a really good five-a-side football pitch in here. Once the ornate part of the tour was done, we headed to the prison. From here you cross the Bridge of Sighs. It was used to transport prisoners between the interrogation rooms and the prison cells. The name supposedly comes from the noise the prisoners made as they enjoyed one last view of Venice before being locked away. After the palace, we popped into the basilica next door. It was absolutely mobbed here. Everyone who wasn't in the palace must have come here instead. We didn't hang around for long as it wasn't that interesting. After visiting the palace and basilica, we decided to walk west along the seafront of Venice and try and get to the far end of the island. As you can see, the weather was a bit grey and there was a bit of a sea swell. I wasn't sure how long it would take for us to do the walk, but it didn't look that far on the map. My expectation of Venice was that the whole island comprised small alleyways, as that's what I see on travel videos and pictures. I was surprised by just how spacious this area is, and there was even space for gardens and trees. It definitely felt a lot less touristy here, and a bit like where real people may actually live, although I suspect it's probably holiday homes rather than real homes. Most looked boarded up, and there wasn't a lot of signs of life in the houses. There was plenty of people walking about, but the housing definitely felt underused, probably because we were there out of season. During longer walks, I had Heath in my backpack. The SAS famously train with bricks in their backpack, but if they want a real challenge, they should use a toddler. It tests your strength and your mental fortitude when he cries or decides to use my head as a punching bag. I spotted this laundrette. I'm guessing there's not a lot of room for washing and drying clothes here. After one last chase of the pigeon, we headed back to the hotel to get something to eat so that Heath could enjoy watching some Tractor Ted. This toddler loves tractors. It must be his crofting genes. I haven't watched kids' TV since I was a child myself, and I have to admit, it's much better nowadays. Tractor Ted is surprisingly good and has some quite good tunes in it. After lunch, we went to visit the most beautiful bookshop in the world. I'd spotted this on a YouTube video detailing some of the secret places to visit when you come to Venice. Obviously, it wasn't that much of a secret. As you can see, the shop was very, very busy. The books are mostly in Italian, but it's still worth having a look around. Italian comic books are a lot more racy than some of the ones you get in the UK. The highlight of the shop is the view out the back, which looks onto the canal. If you look carefully on the way out, you might spot that some of the books are being kept in a gondola. The shop is definitely worth a visit, but don't be surprised that it's not a secret. If you're interested in knowing what happens to all the rubbish that is created in Venice, then now you know. So there are garbage trucks, garbage boats. The next day we decided to head to a different island. There are a few to choose from, so we decided to check out Lido, which has beaches, leafy residential areas and hosts the Venice Film Festival. It serves as Venice's seaside resort and offers a different atmosphere than the historic city, as it has cars, roads, normal shops and restaurants. We got the ferry from St Mark's Terminal. We bought a pass that allowed us to have unlimited ferry travel. It was quite expensive, but it's much cheaper than using the water taxi service and much quicker than walking everywhere. The sea was choppy, but it was fine while sailing. It's worth noting that it's not a particularly quick service. This is because it stops quite often.
Whoa, it's steep. Whee!
The weather was grey, but it wasn't too cold. You can hire bikes to get around, but we decided to walk from the ferry terminal to the beach. Unsurprisingly, we were one of the few people here. I've seen pictures of the beach in nice weather and it can get pretty busy. It was good to escape Venice and I definitely recommend it as a day trip, especially if you enjoy ice cream. After the ice cream, there's only one thing left to do: jump in a plane and head home to Glasgow, and Heath could have a sleep.